Hello, I am Panos Kotzathanasis, and this is ASEAN Movie Pulse Interviews. Today I'm here with Joko Anwar, straight from Indonesia. How are you, Joko?
I'm okay. I'm good, Panos. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm
Great
fine,
to
I'm fine.
finally see you again.
Yes, you do. Okay, tell me a bit about Communion. It was the first Indonesian film that was screened in IMAX format. Was it kind of
Yeah.
different shooting for that format?
Uh, Actually, in terms of storytelling, there's nothing different in the way we shoot it. We just have the IMAX ready camera while shooting it. But in terms of technically and aesthetically, it's not different than any other cameras. But we, of course, understanding that it's going to be viewed on very big screen, so everything has to be in detail. All the art direction has to be meticulously put together, as well as the cinematography. And we want to make sure that the medium that we are going to show the movie on is going to be used to the optimally used.
Okay, great. And okay, the film was it was a blockbuster in Indonesia. Did you expect this success?
Well, actually, we did not have an experience where a sequel like reach more audience than the original, usually in Indonesia. But for Communion, it's something different. We kind of expect it's going to be on the same level in terms of box office numbers from the original one, but we did not expect that it's going to be almost twice as many as the first one. But I think it's because we also have waited for 5 years for the sequel, and people anticipation has been mounting over the years. And we had two kinds of audience. The first audience is the one who saw the movie 5 years ago, and we also have the new audience who saw the movie later on streaming platforms. So time was on our side. Actually, to release it after the pandemic, it's good for the movie.
But did you shoot during lockdown or when did you shoot?
We shot the movie during lockdown. Yeah, we shot it in 2020, August 2020 until October 2020. Yeah. It was still during the pandemic, when the pandemic was still very much intact.
Okay, and can you tell me a bit about the inspiration behind the story of the movie?
Okay. In 2016, when I was presenting the story of Satan's Slave to my producers at Rapi Films, I actually laid down the whole story from the story that was told in the first movie until several other movies that will follow that. But I told my producer that we really have to make the first one as a one-time movie. So when it was if it was not as successful, we could stop and we did not have to continue the movie. Except for the last bit of the movie, where we could see the couple dancing. That was kind of dilemma for us, because if we put it, it will make people think that we definitely have a sequel going on. But without that, I think it's going to be not complete. So we let the last part of the movie with the couple dancing in the first movie. But yeah, the story for Communion is actually was there during the what do you call it, during the making of the whole Satan's Slave if you want to say universe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not the case where the first movie has different inspiration and the second movie has different inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
All of them is in one story, and that come from one inspiration.
Mm-hmm. So are you planning to continue this universe as you said?
Yep. We already, I think, kind of not announced it, but we gave a hint that it's going to be continued. The story is going to be continued because it's not complete. Actually, on the second movie, in Communion, we opened the door to the possibility of a bigger story, because when we first made Satan's Slave, we know it was a very contained horror movie in a house, but it's actually the beginning of something much bigger. And those scale of story was seized in Communion. So expect bigger story in the continuation of the Satan's Slave universe, but while we are going to have bigger scale stories, we also still going to have much more contained stories also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And can you tell me about this Bandung Conference that is mentioned in the film?
Yeah. In 1955, 10 years after the Declaration of Independence for Indonesia, our country was very active in this movement called non-block organization, non-block. I think it's in English it's called non-aligned country.
Mm-hmm.
So we Indonesia we were trying to be, excuse my English, we were trying to be a force in the world which push peace by not aligning ourselves to the west or to the east side. And in 1955, countries who also thought alike, they sent delegation to Indonesia, to be precise, in the city of Bandung, West Java, to have this conference to talk about attempts of promoting peace in the world. That's the backstory of Bandung Conference in 1955, Panos.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if we focus on the priest character in the film, it looks like you are all. If we focus on the character of the priest in the movie, so it seems like you're also making a comment about religion through him. Is that what you wanted to do? What is your opinion on religion, let's say?
Yeah, it was actually from the first movie. Back then, during the era of Suharto, which was also called the New Order era, we were living under the dictatorship of Suharto since 1965 to 1998. And back then, because there was no freedom of speech in Indonesia, the filmmakers trying to make the protest of issues in Indonesia, but we cannot really make it into movies, the real issues, the real theme, the real story. So we were using horror movies as our tool to make a protest to the government. Mm-hmm. So most of the times, the devil, the villain, the evil was the substitute of the government, the dictatorship government during that era. And a Muslim leader was always the solution maker, always the one who make everything's okay. But I think because we are not in that era anymore, and we can talk very freely. I want to really make a statement that we have to leave that era where we cannot speak freely about what we want to say about our government, and we have to leave the belief of many Indonesians that our lives are not in our hands but in the hands of religion leaders or even mysticism. So I want to kill all the, what do you call, the saviors from the bygone era, to make a statement that we have to take our life in our own hands. I think that's the thing that I want to say with Pengabdi Setan and the religious theme in it.
But how is the censorship nowadays for movies in Indonesia? Oh, is it lighter than the past, I guess?
Yes, actually, I am quite pleased with the censorship in Indonesia now. I think start from, I believe 3 years ago, when there was this new board of censorship board installed, and they came from, I mean, the head of the chairman of the censorship board came from journalists. So they really know that censorship is not something that is relevant anymore. We have to let the filmmakers have freedom to say whatever they want to say. The consequences will be the rating system. So if they want to make a movie that is provocative, with adult themes, provocative matters, they can have the, let's say, the R rated or the NC-17, or we have all ages 13 years and above, 17 years and above, and 21 years and above. And usually the 20 years and above rating will not attract as many audience as any other rating. So it's up to the filmmakers. If they want to make provocative movies, they will have less chance of being viewed by the audience. So I think that's good. Basically, now we have rating system because the censorship does not cut our movies. They will let us know that if we want to keep this movie as it is, they will slap us with the 21 above rating. And if we want to have more accessible movie for more audience, we have to adjust the cut. So I think it's better now since 3 years ago, Panos.
Okay, that's great. And okay, tell me a bit about the building in the movie. How did you find it? Where is it?
Oh yeah, the location for Satan's Slave movies have always been the biggest, the most difficult thing to find. The first movie, we spent 9 months to look for the proper house, and we end up getting a house that has been abandoned from 1945, and we had to fix it to make it usable for the shooting. And for the second one, for Communion, we were looking for the apartment. I think we looked in 3 cities, but we could not find any, until one day I just tweeted to my followers, asking them if they know a location, an apartment that is usable for us. And actually, this one follower of mine told me that there was this abandoned building, abandoned apartment, which was built by the government back in early 2000, but it was abandoned because the program belonged to one president of ours, and then we changed the president, and it's not being continued, the project of the building. So this apartment had been abandoned when we were shooting in it, had been abandoned for 13 years. And when we got there, it was full of bats. Actually, it had 14 floors, but we were told by people who live around it that we should not go to the 7th floor because the 7th floor is the nest for all the evil spirits. But of course, during the shooting, we had to do it because we have to make the rigging for the lighting and the camera. And some of the crew actually went to the 7th floor. And that day, there were several members of the crew that got possessed.
Really? What does that mean?
Yeah, some of our crew members got possessed and they were speaking in language that they don't understand. In Indonesia, there were many ethnic language, and our crew members that got possessed definitely did not know how to speak that language, but they speak the language anyway. And one of them was protesting about the scene. If you remember the scene where Tony opened the door and they found 2 corpses, the shrouded corpse, and the crew member who got possessed went down to that room and he was protesting, saying that our kind is not that scary, or our kind is not that ugly, or something like that.
Okay.
In another language. So we actually made ghosts that is scarier than the actual ghosts.
Oh, okay. So I guess, okay, after this experience, I guess you do believe in the supernatural, right? Or no?
I every time I say I don't believe, there's always something that happened. I mean, during the shooting of Impetigore, there was this one shot where the camera panned to the 3 little child actors, and the camera pan again to the right and back to the children, and the children are supposed to be taken by my AD, but the children was there like 5 takes. I was getting very irritated and I said, hey, you should have taken the kids and take it from the spot. And they said the children are with me now on different spot, and then we look at the footage and I said, did you see that? Everybody can see that, right? And everybody can see the 3 children that is not our actors on the scene. And we actually left the shot in the movie because to erase it cost money for the CGI, so we just leave it.
Okay. Then you have to believe it, right? Okay.
No, because if you believe it, that means you're insane or you're an illogical person. But things happen. Probably there's some other explanation for it. I don't know. Perhaps the crew members lacking oxygen, and I don't know.
Okay. And tell me a bit about the elevator scene in the movie, which is where the horror essentially begins.
The what? Sorry?
The scene in the elevator, which is where the horror part essentially begins.
Oh, the elevator scene?
Yes.
Yeah, we were shooting it. Actually, it was a very fun set piece to shoot, and every time I say cut, the actors just burst into laughter. But when we showed it to the audience, people were scared. Some of them scarred for life. But when we were shooting, it was so much fun. I think it was the most fun set piece to shoot in the movie.
Okay.
Mind you, because the department has been abandoned for 13 years when we were shooting it there. There were no elevator because it was not a finished apartment when they abandoned it. It was perhaps only 65% built, and they left it and they abandoned it. So we had to build some kind of elevator in the apartment. So of course, with all the safety measures that we take, that we did, it's still scary, but everything went very well. Yeah, thank God.
Okay. So you believe in God?
No, it's just my custom.
Oh, I'm just kidding. Okay, no
I'm
worries.
accustomed to it.
Okay, so your movies, okay, there are most of them are like they have horror elements, horror films, and there are action films. But whatever the style, they are always filled with humor. They are always funny in some ways. How is that? How important is that for you to have humor in your movies?
Well, I always love humors in all horror movies that I watch. Um, I think they don't just function as a comic relief, but it kind of signaling the audience that this is life. I mean, sometimes we take horror movie too seriously and we want to make it really atmospheric or really scary, and then without humor it will not feel like life, and if it's not relatable we will not be caring about the characters, we will not care about their safety. While in horror movies, if you don't care about the character safety, it's not going to be scary. So horror movies is there because it's an element that we find in everyday's life. So it makes the story more relatable, I think.
Okay, okay.
And of course, perhaps instinctively, I don't know about other culture, but in Indonesia, every time we feel nervous, we make jokes. I mean, in Indonesia, if we see someone, if we walk on the sidewalks and we see someone fall, the first response that we will make is laugh. We will be laughing, and it's not because we are disrespecting or we did not care about the people, but it's just a natural response from Indonesian. So, you know, it's very common to have Indonesian making jokes or laugh during the times of anxiety.
Okay. And can you tell me a bit about the casting of the movie?
The casting, yes, of course. All the original cast from the first movie came back. The father, the mother, and the 4 children. And for other characters, as usual, I did the casting myself. I have this what do you call it? I usually cast the actors myself, and I was looking to find people who can be believable. Of course, that's the first thing that we need to find in our actors, but it's also important to find actors that really humble, because I think humility is the most and foremost thing that an actor has to have, because if they have humility, they'll be able to get into other people's shoes very easily, and with that they'll be able to really portray the other characters that is not themselves. So I do the casting myself. I was looking for people who can be natural, believable, but also people who have humility. So by having all these actors that really respectful toward each other, respectful toward the process, we could have such productive process during the shooting. I really cannot tolerate people raise their voice when shooting. So I want during the shooting, everybody's having fun, and it's a collaborative work where everybody has to feel that they are comfortable during the shoot, because if they are comfortable, they can give their best. And my task as a director is to make everybody at peace, at their most comfortable state, so they can give their best. So having, crew and cast who really have respect toward the process and toward each other, I think is the most important thing.
Okay, okay. And last question, I guess, what are you working on next? Any new projects? And also, I wanted to ask what is happening with this superhero cinematic universe. Will it continue?
Yeah, we already have 3 feature films for the for the superhero universe. It's called Bumi Langit Cinematic Universe. We are going to have 1 series for Disney Plus coming very soon, end of this year or early next year. And we also have several other series and features in the cooking. Right now, for my personal project, I am working on my 10 feature film. It's called Grave Torture. Hopefully, it's going to be shot probably early next year. And I have several features also for Indonesian theatrical and also for streaming platforms. And I'm also developing several projects for companies in LA. So yeah,
You are keeping
pretty
busy.
much very busy, but still having fun and able to talk to you, of course.
Okay.
And yeah, you know, working is very important, but staying alive and sane is also crucial.
Okay, that is good. So one more question now that you mentioned all that. Do you think you have reached a point in your career that you can now shoot whatever you want, more or less?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. At this point in my career in Indonesia, I can choose whichever movie I want to shoot, whichever movie I want to make. But I think it's actually more. I find it more difficult because that means you'll have to have more control, and you have to really able to make a very hard assessment on projects that you are going to do next. For example, but I think I'm lucky because I always find it more useful to learn from other people's mistake than other people's success. So whenever I read, whenever I watch about movies that's not working, that movies that not successful fail, I try to find out why they did not successful, why they failed. In fact, one of my favorite books of all time is this book called Fiasco. If you know about that book.
Yeah.
History of Hollywood most iconic flops, maybe the little title. Yeah, I keep reading about why a project failed because of ego, because of someone who is in control think that they know everything. And I'm trying to be surrounded by people who can tell me if what I'm doing is not right. So I'm not trying to be surrounded by people who always say yes to whatever I say. I mean, I have my own company. Of course, I'm the leader at the company, but all my crew, all my staff there, I keep telling them that they're not just free to say whatever they have in their mind about projects that we are doing, but they have to be able and they have to say something if what I decide or what I say is not right. So it's always good to have people who take care of you by not saying I got your back all the time, but people who can also criticize you.
Okay. Well, great. I guess that's it. Okay.
I hope my English is clear enough for you, Panos.
They are clear enough. You are great. So Communion is screening at Udine at the moment, and this was ASEAN Movie Pulse interviews from Panos Kotzathanasis and Joko Anwar. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Panos. Bye.